Apparently, for some strange reason, there is a phrase in American television that has assumed a lexicon well beyond. Do you know this one, Kelly? It's to do with called jumping the shark.
Yeah, I know about that one. It's was it Happy Days or the Fonz?
Yeah, that's right. That's
literally jumping a shark on a jet ski or something. Oh my god, he was pretty cool though.
Okay, but it was sort of the time at which they considered that Happy Days was no longer it had gone stupid, basically.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, and it had gone stupid, and jumping the shark episode was right. Yeah, this is outrageous. This is gone. You've lost it. So it's become, I guess, a byword for when things go mad and bad, and you've lost any form of credibility and strayed far, far from your purpose. Okay, so it obviously has entered the political lexicon as well. But I do want to introduce you this morning to Wellington bureaucrats jumping the shark. Kelly, you will love this one.
Go on.
You will absolutely adore this one. Here we go. Reported by Radio New Zealand, not by anybody else, reported by Radio New Zealand for a long reason, and that is because Radio New Zealand has obviously a policymaker within the Ministry of Health who hates Casey Costello, the Associate Minister of Health, and hates what the government in particular are doing around smoke-free, so gets a large number of leaked documents provided to them. All right? Now, so here we go. But this is jumping the shark to a large degree. So the new coalition government comes in and they appoint, they agree on what their agenda is going to be like. It's well established, published, obviously, on the day, in actual fact, quite open and transparent. They then appoint all their, Christopher Luxon, the new Prime Minister, appoints all his cabinet ministers. And as one of his cabinet ministers, he appoints the New Zealand First MP, Casey Costello, as Associate Health Minister. And she's put in charge of scrapping the smoke-free law. Now, let's be very clear here. She's not scrapping anything at all. It's not legislation that exists, all right? It's legislation that was going to be. So it wasn't in existence. It was future policy that the Labour government had itemised that essentially was going to prohibit tobacco in this country. It was a move towards prohibition, and the idea was that more New Zealanders would be denied access to it in particular. And as we know, there's been an unholy scrap between the Associate Health Minister, Casey Costello, and this government and health authorities as to whether that's a good idea or not. Okay? Nevertheless, Radio New Zealand's now obtained Ministry of Health documents that were sent to Casey Costello, in which health officials argued that the law that she wanted to repeal, or at least the policy steps that she wanted not to take, would have generated health gains for Maori, which were to the general population. Now, for reasons that are completely beyond me, I think it's partly cultural. Maori smoke. Now, Maori smoke like no other ethnicity in New Zealand. Now, this is not the majority of Maori, by the way. I think the average Maori, that's 17% of all Maori smoke. That's the latest stat I've seen. Kelly, 17%. But that compares with about 3, 4, and 5% for the rest of us, Europeans, Pacific Islanders, Asians. In actual fact, I think there is a bit of a misnomer that Asians smoke like a chimney. They don't. Not in this country. Not Asian New Zealanders. Although Chinese living in China, I would suggest to you that's pretty much higher, but Asian folk living in New Zealand, no. In actual fact, they and Europeans are those, and Pacific Islanders down there as well. So I think it's about 3 to 4% of Asians, Pacific Islanders, and Pākehā New Zealanders smoke, but 17% of all Maori. Now, I don't quite understand that. I don't understand. So it's never been explained to me why Maoris smoke. Okay, but even then, if you say 17%, 83% of Maori don't smoke. All right, so that's also worth considering here, just quietly. Over 4 out of 5 Maori New Zealanders do not smoke. All right, cigarettes, tobacco. Okay, cool. Got it established. Excellent. Let's move on. Now, as we know, there were moves by the former government, Labour government, to start to ban and prohibit tobacco. They were going to limit the number of outlets for tobacco, and the aim was that tobacco was going to be outlawed completely, I think by 2050. And health officials thought this was marvellous. Now, a lot of us who know what prohibition means and can study just a little bit of history know that prohibition never works of something that has already been made legal. Didn't work in the 1920s and 30s in this country, let alone the United States of America, but it did aid and abet illegal activities, and it creates a black market, and gangs and organised crime generally move into that market. Fair enough. We know that. 300,000 New Zealanders, I think it is, take a puff every day. 300,000. All right. It's not a lot, but it's a substantial number. Sorry, it's not a lot percentage-wise, but it's a substantial number in total. All right, so Casey Costello's going, these 300,000 are addicted. They're paying a crap load of money for their cigarettes already, and they still haven't changed their behaviour. They're not likely to change their behaviour, no matter if you reduce the number of outlets or anything like that. And if you prohibit, they're probably likely, in actual fact, to go and get their nicotine hit from, the local supplier of tobacco. And if that just happens to be the mongrel mob, so be it. So her rationale is different, all right? And it's an understandable rationale. It might be not a rationale that you and I necessarily agree with, but it's an understandable rationale that she's applied. So she sought a series of briefing papers about what other options do you have instead of going down this track. Well, here we go. The health officials pointed out to her, quote unquote, that Article 2 of the Treaty of Waitangi guarantees, and I think it's the Maori version, all right, active protection of taonga, including well-being, health officials told Costello. Now, that's not true. It doesn't. Even the Maori version doesn't, including that's a complete misrepresentation. This is health officials to their minister. So they've already misinterpreted what they've said, but we'll just read the rest of this, shall we? Article 2 of the treaty, they said, guarantees, quote unquote, active protection of taonga, including well-being, health officials told Costello. Quote, I'm reading this to you directly. This is jumping the shark stuff. The right to be smoke-free is entrenched in Treaty of Waitangi. I'll repeat that. The right to be smoke-free is entrenched in Treaty of Waitangi, the health officials said to their minister. Removing measures that were modelled to reverse inequity and improve health and well-being by changing the broader environment to support people to quit, to stay quit, and to never start to smoke is likely to be viewed as a breach of te tiriti. Now that is the advice that health officials in Wellington gave the minister, that even contemplating playing around with this legislation is in breach of the Treaty of Waitangi. It's an extraordinary and bollocky piece of advice. It's just not true. The smoking is not in the Treaty of Waitangi, is it? Seriously, it's not there, okay? Neither is Maori health as a separate unit, either. In fact, it doesn't matter which version of the treaty that you read, whether it's the English version or the Maori version, at no stage did they ever contemplate that anybody would stop Maori smoking. And I guess in the 1840s, Maori was smoking would have taken up the habit. I suppose tobacco was around. I suppose it was introduced. And I've seen a number, and you will have seen, Kelly, a number of Goldie photos. Have you seen the photos? Yeah, Goldie pictures?
Yeah.
Yeah. old ladies smoking with a pipe in there. Remember that?
Yeah. With the colonial-looking hats and things.
Yep. You know, if that's a sort of part of the culture. So in a funny sort of way in the 19th century, when Goldie was painting these beautiful paintings of old Maori kuia and chiefs, etc., tobacco was already adopted really quickly by Maori as potentially, I suppose, part of, well, the culture of some of them, but certainly. But at no stage did the treaty say, nah, you can't smoke. It's bad, it's evil, it's pernicious. Now just think about this for a moment. Just think about this for a moment too. And Maori are not unique in this, but let's just go. What about alcohol? Kelly. So do you think that the deleterious effects of alcohol, which must adversely affect Maori folk as well, lead to more domestic violence, crime, early deaths, alcoholism, a whole series of related diseases and actions, including ending up in the clink under the influence? Do you think that would be in breach of the Treaty of Waitangi as well? Because apparently, according to the Ministry of Health officials, you are obliged to actively protect taonga, including Maori well-being. Now, you just think this one through. You think of all the deleterious choices. What about new technology? Oh, like over-dependence upon social media. Okay. What about cannabis and its production, which is rife through the Maori community, and I would argue in certain parts of it is way more part of the culture than tobacco ever will. You know, just move this logic through to its obvious conclusion. And the Ministry of Health would argue, well, they didn't though, did they? They didn't argue that. They just argued that tobacco, which was willingly chosen by people who consume tobacco, when all sorts of public evidence is out there that it's not a good thing, and there's all sorts of cost restrictions and financial implications imposed upon the product itself, which makes it very expensive to eat, to smoke, they still do. Now, and somehow those Maori who are choosing themselves to start smoking in a culture and an environment in which apparently it's acceptable and regarded as normal, and who then wish to continue to do so, you are somehow in breach of the treaty rights, of their treaty rights, by letting them do it. It's incredible logic. I'm making an individual choice to smoke. I've got a whole series of educational and financial reasons not to, and health reasons, but I'm still making that choice. So if you deny me that choice, you are fulfilling the rights of the Treaty of Waitangi, but you are seriously impinging and infringing my own individual choice to choose to do so or not. It's extraordinary logic. And if I'm Maori, somehow I'm too effing dumb. I'm too stupid to actually know any of this stuff. I need to be protected by the state because I'm a moron. I come from a culture of morons. Look at my colour. I'm a moron. It should write across my head. I should be born. Little Maori children should just write moron right across the top of it, just so that everybody knows. Because I clearly can't think for myself or make an individual choice or have any ability in my life to do anything that I might want to, because Ministry of Health officials in Wellington clearly imply that I'm too stupid to make up my own mind. And that somehow I'm in breach of the Treaty of Waitangi if I am a non-Maori for letting the morons do that. It's the most extraordinary element of racism. It is typical white liberal racism from Wellington. It's again this concept that people have got to be protected from themselves, and that if people make poor choices in their life, it isn't their fault. It's the fault of the government and the policymakers, and it's even more culturally inappropriate if you allow poor brown people to make those choices. It does my head in. And Ministry of Health officials have clearly jumped the shark. If we think that the Ministry of Health and Wellington bureaucrats are the enemy of reason, of logic, of historical record, of individual choice, then you know what? We're right. What do you think? But it's just the idea that Maori in this country are somehow stupid. You know? They've got to be protected from themselves. Now, when I look at those statistics, 17% versus 3%, I go, I reckon that's probably part of your culture. I reckon there's a cultural appropriation. You've taken on tobacco as part of your culture. You know it's not going to do you any good, but you've decided I'm going to do it anyhow. All right? And then if I was to sort of abolish it from those people who are apparently addicted to this, where do you think they're going to go? Well, I would suspect that cannabis would be a fairly wide substitute, if it's not already. And I would also think it was probably cheaper, to be honest with you. Would it be cheaper, Kelly? It would be cheaper, wouldn't it?
These days it is, yeah.
It would be cheaper, wouldn't it, than buy a pack of cigarettes?
Well,
yes, it would be.
Well, technically it's not, but it is. It's actually very close.
Yeah,
so,
well, there you go.
You know, I smoked, so what am I now, my early 30s. I smoked for the last 18 years or so, and I gave up last year, and I'd buy a 30-gram pouch of tobacco, and I think the last time I bought one, it cost me something like $82. And that's for 30 grams. And then, you know, you can go get some cannabis for, I don't know, it's supposed to be about $50 for 3 grams or so. So technically,
not that you'd know.
Not that I know too much. Yeah. It's the town
I was given it by a friend for Christmas.
Yes, that's right. Asking for a friend. But no, I mean,
that's right.
Okay, technically it is more expensive than tobacco, but you can get it a lot easier than tobacco, that's all I'm saying. It's a lot more out there, and it's a lot more, well, I mean, not that I'd know, but, you know, the more you buy, the cheaper it is, sort of thing, too, in bulk packs. So, yeah, no. And you don't pay tax on it, which is great. Not that I'd know.
But, I mean, I thank you for that. But, Kelly, seriously, the Ministry of Health are essentially saying Maori people can't be trusted with choice. They're too stupid. And isn't the whole thing in the 19th century that we're meant to be moaning about is that 19th century Europeans didn't think that Maori were too good, so that's why they couldn't make up their own minds, or they need to be protected from themselves or whatever? Isn't that called racism? According to the 21st century interpretation of those actions?
Yeah.
So, okay, in the 21st century, if you're a Ministry of Health official, it's not called racism, it's called honouring the Treaty of Waitangi. It's unbelievable. And the remarkable thing about, this is that Radio New Zealand News, paid for by you and us, the taxpayer-funded state left-wing broadcasting outlet, actually have reported this piece of information as if it's Casey Costello's fault. The headline is, Associate Health Minister Casey Costello got warning of possible Treaty of Waitangi breach over smoke-free law. And it starts, Associate Health Minister Casey Costello was warned that scrapping the smoke-free law would be viewed as a breach of the Treaty of Waitangi. The implication from the whole article and the way in which it was reported is that somehow she was grossly irresponsible to being because it was going to contravene it. And she was told, how dreadful. Radio New Zealand, you don't realise what a racist organisation you are. And Radio New Zealand News, you don't realise that you think all Maori are stupid. And I mean, I sort of forgive Ministry of Health officials because they are stupid. I've never met a bright public health official in my life. And I've served on district health boards and had them appear to me, they are all morons. Okay, so if you want real morons, go to a public health official. Good God, we let them run this country for 3 years. It just sends shudders through me. No wonder this country is in the crap at the moment, both financially and in terms of our kids at school, etc. And don't forget about that group that were alienated and sent off into the bloody terrorist network because we've told them that they're second-class citizens. Don't forget them either. That's what happens when you listen to public health officials. But no, so Radio New Zealand News and Ministry of Health officials together are saying Casey Costello is killing Maoris. In fact, that accusation has directly been made in Parliament. You know why? Because you're stopping individual Maori making an individual choice as to their future. Now, here's the next bit for you, just quietly. Okay, what about the 3-5% Maori Europeans, Pacific Islanders, and Europeans who still smoke? Asians who still smoke. What about them? Not a word. Not a word. Honestly, you just sit here? How many times does the media of this country and public health sector officials and public bureaucrats in general need to jump the shark before we say enough?